All right, so I just want to talk quickly about embracing lack, embracing a dissatisfaction in our lives, embracing a sense that we could be better. So, anytime that we're focusing on growth, focusing on becoming something other than what we are right now, improving ourselves, there's going to be some degree of dissatisfaction, some degree of lack, dukkha, the Pali word for suffering that's used in Buddhism constantly, where in Theravadan Buddhism, they would say that the goal is to end dukkha, to end this experience of suffering, this experience of dissatisfaction. However, in my life, and according to the teachings of Dharma teacher Robert Bea, there is a necessity in this feeling of restlessness, this knowing that I could be better, I could be improving myself, I could live a more beautiful life, live a more beautiful myth. And as long as we know that, then it's difficult to rest. And this is something that at first people might say, oh, I don't really want that. I don't really want to live a life of dissatisfaction. And there's nuance to it. As I've found in my own life, the sense of dissatisfaction is very difficult if we do not have a way to see a different view. If we're trapped in this dissatisfaction, this perennial feeling of I'm not enough, and thus I need to go for more. This is where it's necessary to actually be able to adopt multiple different views at different times. So for instance, to know how to access the view that is, I am perfect as I am, I'm flawless, and actually the deep knowing that no matter what I do, I could never fundamentally improve what I am. This is a necessary view. This is very true, very real in one sense, and it's a beautiful view to hold. But if we hold that view that I am perfect as I am, the world is perfect as it is, if we only hold to that, then we can easily fall into a sense of complacency, both in our own lives and in our relationship to the world, where we don't give a shit about violent conflict. We don't give a shit about climate change. We don't give a shit if we're getting overweight because I'm perfect. And, that is a view to hold, and I won't say there's anything wrong with that, but dig down deep in your bones and ask yourself, is that really what I want? And just listen, because this life is complex, and we won't easily be able to just rest on one view forever. Hence the necessity of being able to oscillate between these views. The view that I am perfect, for instance, should be known and should be held. We should have access to that view and use it when it suits us. But we should also have access to the view that I could be better. My life could be better. My life could be more beautiful. This world could be more beautiful. So guess what? I'm going to do what I can to improve myself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And I'm going to do what I can to improve the world in any way that I can, in any way that resonates with me. And if we are going to hold that view where we know that we can and should and actually have to improve ourselves, want to really explore what is possible for us personally and what is possible for our contribution to the world, then there's going to be a sense of lack. There's going to be a sense of not enoughness, a sense of dissatisfaction. And this is a feeling in the body, as well as a mixture of also thoughts in the mind. And this experience is not, in my experience, not that bad when we have access to the other view. If we can pull back whenever we want and say, you know what, I'm perfect, this world's perfect, no matter what happens, then we're free. We're free to really take some chances, to really try our best to see what can I do in this life, not just for me, but for others and for the world, without being trapped in having to do these things. This is where the freedom is in the middle way. This is what the Buddha always would teach, is balance. There's a story where the Buddha was asked, how do you meditate? He was asked by a musician, and the Buddha pointed to his instrument, which was a stringed instrument, much like a guitar. And he said, you meditate much like you tune your instrument there. Too tight, and the strings will snap. Too loose, and the instrument does not make a sound. we need that middle way, that balance between tightness and looseness in our lives in order to really make a sound, to really optimally live. And you can apply this kind of teaching, this kind of view to many different domains of your life, this whole idea of the middle way. Do I be a hermit and stay to myself and stay in and really focus on my life and my views and my practice? Or do I go out and really connect with people? It's not maybe one or the other, it's somewhere in the middle. Just like also, what view do I hold about this world? Do I say that this is a dream? This is all made up, it's all fabricated. There's truth in that, and that is valid. But if we cling to that view, that very polarized view, it will lead to some unhealthy results. We will hit the limitations of that view. If then we can also find the reality in this, come back to the grounded sense of this is real, sort of. This is as real as it gets. This is real in a sense. If we can come back to that, kind of holding both of these polarities, then we can be free to oscillate between the two, depending on what is serving us right now. This is where the freedom is. This is where we start to get agency over our lives, is knowing, again, there is no one way that things are. You can refer to my video on emptiness if you want to really dig into that. And in realizing that there is no one way that it is, we are free to try on different views, different perspectives, different narratives about myself, who I am, and what the world is. And knowing that each of these views will have benefits and limitations. There is no one view that is ultimately better than anything else, any other view. If you feel into this, you will know what I'm talking about. Again, it's just a matter of trying on different views and feeling into them, like a different outfit every day. Try it on, see how it feels. And you don't have to wear the same outfit every day. You can try on different perspectives, different views, different narratives of self and world, depending on the day, depending on the hour, moment, week, year, whatever suits you. But not being trapped in the sense of objectivity, in the sense that there is a one way that things are. So again, I just wanted to highlight emptiness just for a second, to bring a little bit of freedom into the conversation, a little bit of freedom into the topic of embracing lack, the topic of embracing pain, dissatisfaction with ourselves. In our culture today, I think it's common that the inner critic is often so loud that we just want to get rid of it. We want to get rid of the mind. We think the mind is our enemy. We want to just be free. We want to end suffering. That's the only goal, because we're so oppressed by our minds. And we can do practices to really relieve that suffering, and that's not an understatement. We can quickly, I will say within, depending on the person, a few years, be able to undo conditioning in our lives that has caused us so much suffering, so much pain, so much resistance, so much confusion. We can work to chisel away at these conditioned narratives, because that's what they are. They're not objective truths. They're just conditioned narratives and beliefs, views that we have solidified, that we have taken to be real, that we are assuming are objectively real. And through practices, including meditation, including trying on different views, like learning about Buddhism was huge for me, understanding emptiness being the most pivotal insight leading to immense freedom. Psychedelic compounds, time alone, time in nature, alone in nature, in order to get out of the man-made world, to get out of the constantly reaffirmed reality where everyone is, in a sense, reaffirming beliefs, reaffirming senses of identity, reaffirming senses of solidity in the world just by interacting with people. This view of world, this view of self is getting reaffirmed into us. So when we are alone, we get the chance to really reflect and ask the question, is this real? Is this true? How do I know? Am I sure? And if we just ask these questions and sit with ourselves and sit with these questions, we may get some answers, and things can change quickly. And again, so full circle, bringing it back to this concept of embracing lack. If we want to really see what we can do in this life, we're going to have to get familiar with the experience of dissatisfaction in ourselves. Get familiar with that experience somatically. Like, how does it actually feel to feel like, I wish I was this version of myself, or I wish the world was like this? Where do we feel that in the body? Is it a contraction? Is it a longing? Is it a grief? And I think something necessary to acknowledge is not collapsing into that. Building enough intimacy with that experience so that we are not afraid of it. We don't resist it. When that dissatisfaction arises, we're not pushing it away. We can embrace it fully and let it drive us. Because when we have that sense of lack, we are driven to improve ourselves. We're driven to become better. We're driven to change the world. And this is a beautiful thing to have access to. And I think that in many, especially spiritual circles, people often fall into a camp of trying to push away all desire. It's a very Theravadan Buddhist perspective. And again, there's beauty in that. But like any view, there's also limitations. And if we cut ourselves off from desire, life will change in many ways. It may become much more beautiful. I've done this to a degree in my life of just really letting go, embracing radical equanimity. Good, bad, whatever the fuck, it doesn't matter. And it's a beautiful way to live. It's very free, very radiant in my experience. This was when I was traveling for 2 years. I went to Vietnam, biked across the country, went to India, stayed in an ashram during COVID, and was there for like months. Then stayed at Zen centers and worked on some farms and just traveled for years. And at that time, I was really, again, being alone, able to really refine myself, ask the questions: what is real? What is going on right now? What is a life worth living? And then in that stillness, get some answers for myself, find that resonance, find that meaning. And then realizing that while I was able to embrace that radical equanimity of really just letting go, something was missing. That longing, the beauty of that pain of longing. Because it is beautiful, actually, if we open to it. And if we open to it, we can let it move us. We can let this force move through us so that we can become what we are destined to become, in a sense. What, in a sense, you could say the gods are asking of us. Because when this sense of self, this sense of Ben is very fluid, and I don't see it as an objective thing. It's more of a narrative, an idea. Whose desires are these? Could it be the angels themselves? Could it be the gods? Could it be Source, Spirit, trying to move through us? And in that sense, who are we to get in the way? It's up to us to listen to these desires. It's up to us to refine them, to co-create them, to ask the question deeply: what do we want? Do I want to have a very healthy body? Do I want to be able to run through the mountains? I do. So that's why I push myself running through the mountains. And I love it. And do we want to make more money? Do we want to have a great partner? It's all questions we have to ask ourselves. We can also go levels deeper, where we can ask, why do I want the money? Why do I want to run through the mountains? Why do I want this flavor of partner? Is it security? Is it connection? Is it purpose, meaning? Is it this search for beauty? Is it to explore experience of sacredness, divinity? These are all valid reasons, and there are no wrong answers. No matter what you pick, it's right. Just tune into yourself to be sure that it's right. And this is huge for me, is being able to ask this question, because I think that a lot of people today never really dig into that. Like that question of, what do I really want? It's a valid question. What do you want? And again, there's no wrong answers. Money is valid. Connection is valid. To be seen and validated and valued is valid. There's no wrong answers. To be of service is valid. And just tuning in to be sure. Because again, when you are sure of your desires, whose desires are these? Source itself, we could say. At that point, how would I second guess it? How can I say this is wrong? Follow that desire. Be open to it changing in your life. Know that these desires will. And be open to the flow of it. In my experience, it acts almost like a hose, this flow of desire in our lives. If we're open to it, we get hit with these waves of desire, this wave of wanting. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. It's just a flavor of experience. And if we cut ourselves off from desire, then whether it be sexual desire or a desire for material things, desire for a certain flavor of experience, desire to give, desire to explore ourselves and our purpose here. If we cut ourselves off from that desire, it's like we put a kink in the hose and the whole flow stops. And you might have this experience in your life. I have in depression. That's a big reason why I was experiencing depression in my life. I couldn't open to what I wanted because it was too painful. I wanted so much and it hurt so bad to not have it right now. And I resisted that. And when I resisted that experience, it amplified the pain. Like Shinzen Young says, our experience of suffering is pain multiplied by resistance. So if I'm feeling lack, if I'm feeling dissatisfaction in my life and there's that contraction present, this kind of discomfort, if I'm saying this is not okay, I should not be feeling this, we're amplifying that experience of suffering, of dukkha. So what happens then if we open to the flow of desire within us? If we're not resisting it, if we're open to these feelings of, I want more. Whatever it is, I want to connect more deeply to the world. I want to connect more with beauty. I want to give. There's some pain in that. And that's what's going to drive you to do it. So again, opening to desire. If you feel called, because again, there's no wrong answers. You can also explore the path of letting go of desire. Equally valid. No wrong answers, but just tuning into yourself to realize, what do you want? I mean, even in the quest to end desire, there is a desire present, and that's to end desire. So what happens then if we let go of the desire to end desire? It's getting a little heady, a little trippy, but if we let go of trying to end desire, if we're not desiring to not desire, where are we? Right where we've always been, maybe, but with a different perspective on it, with a lack of resistance, maybe, with more awareness on our situation. So again, this is just opening to what's possible, exploring different views, different paths of practice, paths of experience, applying this to your life and seeing what happens. Because again, it's one thing to hear it like from somebody like me. It's another thing to apply to your life and see what happens. If we open to desire, if we're, again, saying there's nothing wrong with it. How does it feel? Feel it in your body. What is the experience of desire like for you in any way? And just becoming intimate and familiar with that. And letting it drive us. So again, this is just a different perspective on freedom, actually. In especially Buddhist circles, a lot of the time they think it's freedom from desire is the objective route of the path. That's the objective goal, the end. This is a fabricated narrative, actually. This is taught by teacher Robert Bea. And it's actually true if you just see it for yourself. It's a very zoomed out perspective on even Buddhism. Buddhism is not a static tradition, it's evolving. Every time it's hit a new shore, China, Japan, Tibet, it's actually changed and transformed. And Buddhism is very new in the West, and it is transforming now. And in my opinion, Robert Bea is a big part of that, innovating these teachings. So again, seeing that the desire to end desire is just one path, and that leads to a certain flavor of freedom, just a certain flavor. There are many different flavors of freedom. There's no objectively better or worse style of freedom. And for instance, we could say another flavor of freedom would be not freedom from desire, but actually freedom within desire, where because I'm not resisting the experience of desire, I'm cool with it. I'm cool with constantly going with this sense of restlessness. I'm okay with it. And I have tried this on in my life, and that's what I'm doing right now, actually. It's a focal point for me. Pushing myself physically, mentally, spiritually, making these videos. It's vulnerable and it's difficult. Really fun, but difficult. And but opening to the desire, letting it move you. And again, not being trapped in that view. This is where the freedom is that I will keep emphasizing, is holding both of these views as possibilities. Not saying one is objectively better than the other. To open to desire. And also to be able to say, fuck it, I don't need any of this shit. Have them both be true. Can you access both at different times? Realizing, if I'm opening to the flow of desire, is there an end, actually? When do I hit a point where I'm like, I did it, this is enough? Is there such a point? If I'm viewing my life like that, if I'm viewing the path like that, you'll find that there is no end. There's always more. More to connect with, more beauty to tap into, more poetry to engage in, metaphorically speaking, in this world. And it can get exhausting holding to that view. So then having access to the other view, it is like, which is, I don't need any of this. This life is a miracle. At the end of the day, no one knows what's going on right now. Nobody. No one knows where this came from. No one knows what it is. Well, dependent origination in Buddhism is experientially quite an explanation, actually, but that is a whole topic. I will say that ultimately still nobody can say for sure. No one knows what happens when you die. No one. No one's proved anything. And I think that it almost has to be that way. We can't try to put a box on the mystery. That would kill it in a sense. And remembering that, in a sense, whatever you do, no matter how much you accomplish, no matter what you become, it will never make you fundamentally better than what you are right now. You are perfect, flawless, in the image of God, in the image of Source. Source is flowing through us, everything. It's in the wind, it's in the trees, it's in the galaxies, and things beyond all of that too. And are there mistakes? I would say no. And again, that's a beautiful view. You see that these are almost paradoxical views. How do you hold both? In my experience, you kind of can't. At the same time, at least. You can hold both and see the truth in them. Not try to fall into this trap of, oh, this one's really real. This one's not that good. Give it some time, and maybe you'll say something different. Realizing the use of both. Realizing the benefit of both. Realizing also the limitations of both. So I hope just hearing this talk, you understand. You can get a glimpse, maybe, of this freedom of applying the teaching of shunyata and emptiness to our lives, to be able to hold different views at different times, to be able to try on different views like outfits and feel into it. What feels good right now? Do that. What feels right, maybe, better than good? What feels resonant? Because it can feel unpleasant, it can feel painful, it can feel sad. There's nothing wrong with that, because again, there's beauty in all of those experiences. So just feeling into what feels true, resonant, beautiful right now. And yeah, following that. Because again, whose desires are these? Who wants to create worlds through us? This is Source itself, you could say. Our views, our narratives are creating our experience here, our perception that we pick up through the senses. Our world is constructed in part by us. It's co-creation. And what world does Source want to create through us, through our eyes? It's up for us to tap into ourselves and the flow of desire, because desire will be your compass, point you in the right direction. And tuning into a certain level of depth within yourself to realize, what do I actually want and desire? So that it's not shallow, even though that may be a part of the path for certain people. Exploring the more shallow depths, maybe materialistic type things, there's nothing wrong with that. But they have, it only goes so deep. That's what I've found. Sense pleasure, materially. It can be, the dopamine spikes. It can be delicious food, fun experiences, sex, amazing sex. These are sense pleasures, and they can only take you so far. Where I found, and Rob Burbea teaches this too, the experience of beauty, exploring the experience of beauty, co-creating the experience of beauty, because we are co-creating beauty in this world, co-creating experiences of sacredness, divinity, reverence, creating beauty in the very grounded sense, creating art, making your space that you live in beautiful, making yourself beautiful, whatever that means to you, and there's no wrong answers. So again, embracing beauty and senses of sacredness that invoke an experience of deep meaningfulness in life. This, to me, is what makes life worth living. And for me, too, I want to talk about service and how that has made my life very meaningful, very worth living, very worth engaging, and very purposeful. I feel something coming through me, through this content, through what I'm saying right now. It feels like, yeah, something is trying to live through me, and I'm trying to get out of the way as best as I can to give. So, on the spiritual path, what I found, this is interesting, is that people at first think that we should be selfless. We need to serve others because that's what's right. Don't be selfish. Don't just care about you. The deeper I've gotten on the spiritual path, actually, I found that selfishness and selflessness start to merge, actually, where what I want for me, what feels best to me, is actually to serve others. And if I want to be able to serve others enough, if I want to serve them optimally, then I have to take care of myself first. I have to meditate. I have to spend time alone, time in nature. I have to spend time exercising. I have to spend time doing what I need to, making this content, to make sure that I feel good. I need to have enough money. I need to have good, healthy food. Take care of yourself so that you can serve the world. And serve the world so that we can take care of ourselves. Because we'll find, my life is all about me. This is what I found on the path when I was traveling, again, for 2 years. This whole spiritual development and growth and search for enlightenment, freedom. It was all about me. And in a sense, it was very contracted, very limited, very separate, very solid me that is looking for this thing called freedom. And a deeper sense of freedom came when I decided I want to give back. I decided, you know what? I don't think I can ever actually find this ultimate sense of satisfaction for myself, because again, there's always more. So I want to let go of me and serve the world, serve others, because in that there's a letting go of this self-obsession, of this solidification of self. When everything's about me, I'm actually solidifying an experience of a solid, separate self through my actions of just caring about me. And when I am giving to others, when I'm in service to the world, I am loosening that obsession of self, that contracted, solidified experience of self. And that feels fucking great. I can finally relax. That's what it felt like to me, and still does. So interestingly, being of service to others is what I found to be one of the best ways to be in service to myself. While simultaneously being in service to myself, taking care of my body, of my mind, is the best way I can really show up for others. So, interesting. And this actually corresponds to the evolution of Buddhism from Theravadan, which is very, in a sense you could say, focused on the self-freedom. And then Mahayana Buddhism, the whole notion of the Bodhisattva path, of service to others being the path to freedom, actually. What I'm speaking to now is more of the Mahayana view. I could get into the Vajrayana view, which is rooted in Tantra, and I guess a very beautiful, direct, sensual experience of the world, of the magic of it, of the co-creative potential that we all have. But that's a whole nother talk that I will do at some point. But yeah, so again, full circle, applying shunyata and emptiness to our lives in order to realize that there is no one way to be all the time. And in a sense, using that view to open to an experience of lack, an experience of dissatisfaction with ourselves and the world, so that we can work to change it and change ourselves, be better, always. And then finding the middle way, finding balance in trying to improve myself, always knowing I could be better. I could experience a more beautiful world, for instance. And also, again, balance with that view, with the view that I'm perfect the way that I am. The world is fine. It doesn't need my help. Can we hold both of these views? Because this is where the freedom is. I hope you can feel that. It's very liberating to not be in a cage, to have agency in choosing what we want to see, what world do we want to construct through our conceptions, through our narratives, through our stories, through our goals, intentions. So, yeah. Just what I want to say right now. If you have comments, obviously let me know. Yep. Again, IG, DuffDaddy100, DUFF, DADDY100.